Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 5, Meakashi. So last time we saw Kimiyoshi, right? What happened to him, how he got lost in the second chapter, right? It was revealed in this one. Shion and Kimiyoshi were, they were good. Like Shion liked him until Kimiyoshi said something about Satoshi and it triggered Shion, right? And then also Kimiyoshi revealed that what do you call this? Oreo ordered the kidnapping of the kid right on chapter 4. Also, by the ending of this our last episode, we also kind of learned, or Shion was saying that she was the original Mion, right? She just gave Mion her name and she wants it back. So I think she's saying that she's the original one. And then they were swapping a lot, right? And then they got permanently, or the Mion we know now permanently became Mion. I want to see more of that, honestly. Even in just tips. Like, expand upon that. Explain it much better, right? Or not even just the tips. Maybe just even in the main story. But yeah, anywhere. I just want to know more is what I'm saying. So yeah, let's continue. Let's load this one. Yeah, that was very nice at the ending. Her saying that I was Mion. That was my name originally. Something like that.
あれれみーちゃんもなんだか寝不足な感じだよ。
寝たの3時くらいだからね。眠い。
3時？おいおい、夜更かしにも限度ってもんがあるぞ。大方、漫画の単行本が面白くなっちゃって、一巻から読破してしまったんだろう。俺にも経験があるぞ。
あれひょっとして村長さんのこと？まだ見つかってないの？
I went to the Furude shrine to join the youth group in their search for the mayor. Since I knew there was no way he would be found, it was really boring for me. Well, just enduring sleepiness wasn't that bad. Not if you considered what Kimiyoshi had to go through since last night. He had been hanging from the ceiling and couldn't even fall asleep or sit down since he had to stay on tiptoes the whole time. The teacher then explained to us that the mayor had gone missing and asked us if we knew anything. A couple of people said some things, but they were irrelevant. To me, this issue meant nothing, but it was all my classmates were talking about. I observed Keiichi Maibara. I had no idea if any type of danger was drawing closer to him. Maybe I'd call him again tonight pretending to be Shion. She's gonna mess him up much more. I told him some outrageous stuff last night so he panicked. But I was sure he'd calm down after a day. At the time, I heard a little girl's laughter. It was Rika Furude, the last survivor of the Furude family and their current head. However, she wasn't really treated as one. During the family council, she'd often draw pictures or take a nap in the hag's bed. She wasn't even invited to last night's meeting. It was hard to believe such a little girl was responsible for part of the curse system. However, even though she wasn't in a respected position, as the head of the Furude family, there were plenty of old people who worship her as the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. I'd heard from someone that Rika Furude was rather odd and seemed to behave as if she knew she was a reincarnation. Maybe Takano-san had told me that at the library when she was alive. When Rika Furude became worried about something, the elderly people who worship her would make arrangements. It was very familiar to the Sonozaki family, and it was also the same system as used for the curse. I wonder, does Rika Furude know anything about the deaths of Takano-san and Tomitake-san? What does she think of people sneaking into the ritual storehouse? Does she know who snuck in and what happened to those people? As the one managing the storehouse, it was possible that she noticed the intruders first. In fact, she was the only one who could have noticed it. She must have passed on that information, which was why the curse was executed. That foolish Kiichi Maibara turned the lights on when we went into the ritual storehouse. That light switch could have been connected to some kind of alarm. Rika Furude, the leader of the Furude family, maybe getting to know her would be a good idea. So yeah, the next
フルデ家
mystery.
当主として今回の件はどこまで知ってるの？
Yeah, the next mystery is when Rika and Satoko, I think, right? Rika and Satoko went to the Sonozaki house, right? Yes, that's gonna be the next one. I asked her rather directly. It was hard to tell if she understood I was asking her in place of the Sonozaki family head, instead of as Miyon Sonozaki.
富武たちのことですか？
Rika answered. The news hadn't been made public, yet she knew about it. Although she looked immature, perhaps she truly was the head of the Furude family.
お社様のたたりなのですよ。としか言えないのです。
そんなのは分かってるよ。ならまだ終わってないよね。あと2人残っている。その2人はどうなるか聞いてる？
I tried to be vague to see how Rika Furude would react. I had been thinking that she had nothing to do with the underside of Hinamizawa since she was always treated like a child. However, Rika just said things about the incident which normal people shouldn't know anything about. That proves she belonged to the underside's network.
別にどうでもいいと思いますですよ。
She answered the question about Tomitake-san and Sekano-san fairly quickly, but it took a little longer to answer this time. Did she have to think about it? The look on her face never changes. It's impossible to figure out what she's thinking.
どうでもいいってことはないでしょ。それじゃあけじめにならないのは分かってる？
僕はちゃんと反省したならそれでいいと思いますです。
Her response was unexpected, especially after seeing all the old people get so furious last night. To trespass in the ritual storehouse was blasphemy against Oyashiro-sama. The village elders had said those intruders deserved to die. Yet the leader of the Furude family who protected the sacred storehouse for ritual implements said that if they felt remorse for it, then that was fine. I recalled how people thought of Rika Furude's father during the dam conflict. Yes, her father was called an opportunist back then. He didn't agree with the Onagafuchi guardians who had resisted violently during the conflict. Like father, like daughter. I aggressively grabbed the Rika Furude by the collar.
はあ？何をひよったことを言ってんだか。フルデ家は先代もあんたもつくづく甘ったるいね。あんたたちフルデ家が西宮殿がいかに神聖で不可侵な聖域か一番理解してなくちゃならないんだよ。そのフルデ家の仮にも当主が何を甘ったるいことを言ってるわけ。
I laughed at myself. I was told the same thing by someone else and was now saying it to Rika.
西宮殿を犯した罪がどれほどの大罪か理解してないわけじゃないんでしょ。
西宮殿はお社様の大切な場所なのです。勝手に入ったりとかしちゃダメなとこなのです。
わかってるじゃない。そこに汚れを持ち込んだんだよ、あの4人は。
悪い猫さんなのです。にゃー。
そうだね、悪い猫だ。2匹は捕まえてお仕置きした。あと2匹いる。
にゃー。
どうけじめをつけるべきだろうね。フルデ家当主のご意見を聞かせてよ。
Rika really didn't usually wear any expression or whatsoever, making it impossible to tell what she was thinking. But while I grabbed her by the collar and stared at her, I could tell somehow. Rika was a little disturbed. I sensed she was trying to see what I was thinking in turn.
僕は2匹の猫さんは許してあげたいです。
それでけじめになると思ってんの？
みー、けじめって言葉が僕にはよくわからないです。
ああ、いい質問だね。じゃあお勉強しよう。けじめってのはね、罪をあがなうってことなの。罪は残せない。お社様のお怒りを放置することになるんだからね。だから罪の大きさに比例したけじめで罪を清めなければならないの。わかるよね？
お社様は別に西宮殿を見られても怒らないのですよ。
はあ？あんた何言ってんの？
あの中を見ちゃダメなのは、あの中に怖い道具がいっぱいあるからなのです。見るときっと怖がる人もいると思いますのです。だから誰にも見せないようにしてあるのですよ。見た人もきっと怖かったと思います。だから反省してると思いますのです。
反省してるから許されるって。あんたが決めることじゃないでしょ。そりゃお社様が決めること。
僕はお社様の巫女ですよ。
そんなことは知ってるよ。じゃあ何さ、あんたはお社様に怒ってませんよって直接声を聞いて確認したとでも言うわけ？
Rika nodded yes without hesitation. I can't believe the lie she's coming up with. I'm not surprised, I'm shocked.
あんたら古出家がそんなざまだから、あんたの両親は一昨年のたたりで死んじゃったんだよ。お社様に仕える資格がないとお怒りを受けてね。それであんたの父親をたたり殺したんだよ。
お社様はそんなことしないのです。お父様はお社様のたたりで死んだんじゃないのです。
こんなのが最後の古出家の巫女だとはね。お社様が心を安らかにできないのがよくわかるよ。お社様をお祭りする古出家の人間でありながら、嘆かわしい。
ミーが何を怒っているのか僕にはよくわからないのですよ。
Okay, I'm sorry, I accidentally clicked it. I realized she was in a position to know as much as the other two family heads. As proof, she talked about this year's incident as though it was nothing. Yet she could feign ignorance with a serious face. She sure is something. She's even better than me. But yeah, Rika is thinking this is Mion, right? And Mion is like this to her. I slapped her a few times and pushed her to the floor. Rika, having tumbled downward, looked up to me with tears in her eyes.
そもそもあんたが西宮殿の鍵が重いから簡単なものに付け替えたいって言い出したのが事の発端なんだよね。
そうですよ。硬くて僕では大変だったので、君吉に相談して簡単な鍵に付け替えてもらったのです。
あんたがその程度の手間を惜しまず頑丈な世情をそのまま残していたなら、西宮殿への侵入を許さなかったかもしれない。今回の一件はあんたにも責任の一端があるんだからね。それを忘れない方がいいよ。もちろんあんたと一緒に鍵を付け替えた君吉家当主にも責任があるんだけどね。
The last part was something I added on a whim. I added it to connect Rika's story to the disappearance of Kimiyoshi. I wanted to pressure her psychologically by doing so.
君吉家当主はけじめをつけてもらうことになった。だから消えた。古出家当主にもけじめをつけてもらうことになるよ。
Rika was still on the floor, tears pouring down her cheeks.
あと残ってるのは前原圭一だけ。こいつは古出家の方で頼むことにする。
僕は何もわかんないのですよ。
別にあんたはわかんなくてもいいでしょ。憂慮したり困った顔をするだけでいいんだから。それはうちも同じ。とにかく頼んどくよ。
そんなの。
Rika hung her head. She seemed to want to say something, but she was afraid that I might be rough with her again. I doubted Rika Furude was actually at the top of the curse system like the hag was. However, as one of the three family heads, she was a lot closer to the underside of Hinamizawa than I was. By now, that underside was well aware of Keiichi Maibara. I told the elderly leaders of the village yesterday in the meeting that Keiichi Maibara was the last one remaining. I just told the head of the Furude family the same thing. If threateningly. If my threat was effective, the curse of Ayashiro-sama should very soon fall upon Keiichi Maibara. And at just the right time, I would grab my enemy right as he took the bait. If the assassin came from the Furude family, this girl would have committed the same sin as the hag. When the time came, I wouldn't hold back. I was gonna make sure she suffered and then kill her. I've heard of a torture technique where you pound dozens of nails into a victim's fingers. I already found a restraining table and the tools for it. Then when the time comes, I'll pound nails into your fingers. The gruesome anticipation radiated from my eyes and scared Rika even further. And then I guess after that scene, right, Rika talked to Keiichi. I wonder how Kimiyoshi is doing. He's probably dead now. I doubt he died from tiptoeing all night, but sometimes a human can go very easily. He already told me everything I wanted to hear and he doesn't know anything else anyway. On top of that, he was responsible for spreading the infection that was the cursed system of Ayashiro-sama. His sins are heavy. I really liked Uncle Kimiyoshi. He had always been kind. The hag was so tough on her relatives, and that's why he was extra nice to me. When we talked yesterday, I was so happy to hear him say he would forgive Shion. He even said he would fight the hag to save her. That made me very happy. Don't worry, if Shion-chan feels bad about what she's done, she won't be demoned away. Leave it to me. I felt such warmth inside of me. I almost shivered. I was so happy, yet so very sad, for he continued to say that Satoshi-kun deserved to die. He said those nice things because he wanted to make Mion happy. Since she was worried about Shion, Satoshi-kun deserved to die because he was a member of the cursed Hojo family. But Shion-chan of the Sonozaki family did not. That's what he meant. In other words, the leader of the village, including Kimiyoshi, members of the Hojo family are more contemptible than insects. They didn't care if they lived or died. Their sin was not only that they despised the Hojo family, but also that they let their hatred infect the rest of the village. Therefore, everyone in the village deserves to be a victim of the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Kimiyoshi and the others created an environment that excused murder in that name. If that was so, if Takano-san and Tomitake-san hadn't committed the serious crime of trespassing in the ritual storehouse. Oh, this is, I guess, Teppei Hojo. First time seeing him like this, or with a portrait, I mean. Sateko Hojo, the last survivor of the Hojo family, and Teppei Hojo, who has been hiding in Inoknomiya, might have been the victims. Sateko Hojo. She was always around Satoshi-kun. She expected Satoshi-kun to help her every time she cried. She was one of the people who cornered him. If Satoko wasn't that much of a burden, Satoshi-kun would have killed his aunt. Somebody told Satoshi-kun to commit that murder and to hide the evidence of his connection to the mastermind, so Satoshi-kun was demoned away. That's what Uishi thought. If Satoshi-kun hadn't killed his aunt, maybe he wouldn't have been chosen as last year's victim. Because the demands were vague, after all, the curse of Ayashiro-sama fell upon the Hojo family as a whole. It didn't matter which member of the family died. His aunt had a terrible reputation in the neighborhood. She didn't communicate with her neighbors, and she's always throwing fits, and there was nothing nice about her in any way. Even if Satoshi-kun didn't kill her, the curse would have fallen upon her sooner or later. Their aunt was the first victim. There needed to be another Hojo to calm the curse. According to a rumor, their uncle was living somewhere in Okinomiya with his lover. However, Okinomiya was a little different from Hinamizawa. The Sonozaki family was powerful there as well, of course, but it would have been more difficult in Okinomiya to demon someone away. So naturally, Satoko or Satoshi and Shatoko, who were still in Hinamizawa, became the targets. Which one should be cursed? That was simple. Satoko, of course. She was snobby and lacking in manners. Everyone in the neighborhood liked Satoshi-kun, even if he was the son of the Hojo couple who betrayed the village during the dam conflict. Compared to Satoko, he didn't deserve to die. Therefore, the actual victims of last year's curse should have been his aunt and Satoko. Satoshi-kun was suddenly all alone. His mean aunt and mean uncle were gone. His sister, who was a burden to him, all his life was gone too. Satoshi-kun was such a nice person, and he would be sad, although he'd realize he was finally free. But time would heal him. I'd even help. Dude, if you took Satoshi's sister away, that would be worse though. Seriously. He didn't have to live in his house in Hinamizawa. He's not gonna think like, oh, I'm free or anything like that. No. It's not gonna be like that, Shion. There were plenty of empty rooms in the apartment block where I lived. I could find him an apartment or a part-time job too. He didn't need to go to school in Hinamizawa. He could go to the school with me in Okinomiya instead. He wouldn't know his way around or really anything about the school there. So I'd be with Satoshi-kun all the time. I'd show him a shortcut to school. We'd go shopping and I'd teach him different many things. What unbelievably happy ending. Satoshi-kun had been suffering so much and I had been pushed away all my life. But we would finally be happy. I enjoyed the sweet delusions, but I didn't have any more time to waste. I was sure there were plenty of old people who had been trying to get a hold of Oreo all morning and who were going to try to catch me after I got home from school. Actually, the phone had been ringing constantly while I enjoyed my happy thoughts. When I answered the phone, I casually listened and replied. As I planned, Keiichi Maibara is now known as the next cursed victim within the underside of Hinamizawa. I also tried to let them know that the disappearance of the village chief had something to do with the fact that he changed the lock on the ritual storehouse door. All the authorities in the underside came to realize the seriousness of trespassing the storehouse. After all, one of the heads of the three families got punished. One of the phone calls was from Uishi. He had also heard about Kimiyoshi's disappearance and he knew it had something to do with the changing of the lock. I'm impressed. He has some pretty good sources. But all he can do is catch whatever information he can get. There's no way for him to find out where it's coming from. I'd call Keiichi Maibara again later tonight. Some of the more aggressive villagers may have already started to take action around him. I'm sure that by now, Keiichi's feeling the danger that's coming toward him. I'd have to be careful that he doesn't get killed easily. If I catch him and the enemy before they bit Keiichi, I can use him again as bait. Keiichi Maibara. I haven't known him for that long. He's funny if not intelligent. He'll never replace Satoshi-kun, but I do think he's fun to be around. There's just one thing I don't like about him. He rubs my head far too often. His hand is as warm as Satoshi-kun's hand, which is why I can't stand it. But that's about it. Keiichi Maibara isn't Satoshi-kun's enemy, so I don't hate him. He is fun to be around, but I wouldn't shed a tear for him if he became a victim of the curse. I won't prevent Keiichi Maibara from being killed, but I won't kill him myself either. So I'd made arrangements for the curse to fall upon him, but I never told anyone to kill him. Well, I suppose I did tell Rika Furude to take care of Keiichi Maibara. Wait a minute. To avenge Satoshi-kun, I'm doing exactly the same thing as the hag did. I'm using the exact same systems that killed Satoshi-kun. Keiichi Maibara. I'm just using him. I told people to let the curse fall upon Keiichi, but I've been giving him appropriate warnings. I'm going to help him if he tries to leave. Or live, I mean. If I catch all of my enemies, maybe I'll let him loose. He's different from Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun was tricked into killing his aunt and then was killed himself afterwards, so there wouldn't be any evidence remaining. So I won't kill Keiichi. That's how I'm different from the hag. Evening was turning to night. I had to get dinner ready. I had to eat so I'd had enough strength to take revenge. This place was far from town, so it would even get isolated during winter because of the snow. It's not unusual for a household like this to have 2 or 3 refrigerators, so there were plenty of groceries left in them. I was glad I didn't have to go to the grocery for shopping. I could hear the chorus of the Higurashi. People often say that the sound of the Higurashi brings back memories, but for me, it's the exact opposite. I've only heard of the sound of the Higurashi in Hinamizawa. Therefore, the sound of the Higurashi to me is Hinamizawa. The sound reminded me that I wasn't supposed to be here, that I couldn't be here. That was when I heard the doorbell. Because there was a good distance between the house and the gate, there was a doorbell and an intercom by the latter. And I had a security camera too. So something as modern as a security camera monitor in this old-fashioned kitchen looked rather strange. I turned the switch but nothing appeared on the monitor. So I tried to check the plug, but there were a bunch of cords going behind the refrigerator, so I couldn't even do that. So the doorbell continued to ring while I tried to figure out if the monitor was broken or if it's just I didn't know how to turn it on. I only felt like answering the door depending on who it was. So it'd normally be easier to pretend to be out, but that wouldn't help me. So I was waiting for my enemies to show up. I couldn't just hide myself in that case. The hag was supposed to be sick in an extremely bad mood. So I already sent word out that she didn't want to see anyone. So who could it be? I made up my mind and turned the intercom on. If it was someone unwanted, I could just turn whoever it was away. But I had to act normally so I wouldn't arouse suspicion. I had to act normally.
はい。どちら様でしょう？
こんにちはなのです。
She didn't tell me her name, but I recognize her voice. Okay, so it's Rika. It's happening now.
リカちゃんか。どうしたの？こんな時間に。
実は、お醤油を分けてもらいに来たのですよ。
So she really went here to borrow soy sauce. Okay. Soy sauce? Because yeah, I remember in the second chapter, right, Rena was talking about this like, oh, they didn't have soy sauce, right? You can't have what is the food? Tofu, I think. You can't have this food without soy sauce. So she definitely went to me on. I almost screamed, but I controlled myself. I took a moment to think about the situation. Hinamizawa was far from most stores, so sometimes neighbors would share seasoning and stuff with each other. The village sometimes gets snowed in during winter, but the Fruity Shrine was quite far from this house. It was rather odd for her to come all the way here on her bicycle just to get some soy sauce. Maybe she was using it as an excuse. Maybe there was something she wanted to talk to me about. But that was when I noticed a piece of paper that was on the refrigerator door next to the intercom. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce stock. Feel free to come to the Sonozaki house if you want some. So the hag must have given that flyer to everyone. One of our relatives sent her a barrel of soy sauce. If you want some, bring a container, that's what the flyer said. So I see, this would explain it. There was a handwritten note on the bottom of the flyer. The soy sauce in the storage area under the floor, or is in the storage area under the floor. Give them as much as they want. There was a storage area beneath the floor. When I opened it, I saw a barrel of soy sauce alongside a funnel and a ladle. I didn't want Rika to notice anything suspicious at this point, so I decided to share the soy sauce with her.
いいよ。入れるものは持ってきてるの？
お醤油の瓶を持ってきましたのです。
オッケー。勝手に入ってきていいよ。玄関で待ってる。
As I headed there, I heard the doorbell ring again.
みー、内側から閉まってて、門が入れないのですよ。
ああ、そうだった。ごめん。今開けに行くよ。待ってて。
People didn't pay attention to safety around here in Hinamizawa. People didn't think too much about locking the doors. But as someone who's lived in town, I've always locked everything. To let Rika Furude in, I have to go outside.
こんばんはなのですよ。
こんばんは。
Rika smiled at me. She was holding a huge soy sauce bottle. She acted like I never yelled at her, got violent with her, or made her cry at all today. Or perhaps she came to curry favor, thinking that she angered me. So I invited Rika to the front door. I told her to wait for a moment and tried to take the bottle. But Rika took her shoes off and walked into the house with the bottle in her hands.
いいよ。私が入れてくるから待ってなよ。
僕も、上後でお醤油入れるのは上手になったのですよ。
She looked at me as if begging. I guess she wanted to pour the soy sauce into the bottle herself. I didn't want her to come in the house, but I suppose I didn't want her to wait there alone either. If she came to the kitchen with me, I could keep my eyes on her. And so I brought Rika to the kitchen. We walked down the hallway. I only heard my footsteps. I stopped suddenly and turned around to make sure Rika was following me. Rika bumped into me.
ああ、ごめん。
I made sure she was right behind me and started to walk again. Tap, tap, tap. Tip, tip, tip. Tap, tap, tip. Rika must have been having fun watching or matching her footsteps to mine. Even when I quickly sped up, our footsteps matched perfectly. I stopped suddenly. Rika stopped suddenly too after taking an extra step. When I turned around, Rika smiled at me. Our footsteps matched perfectly, and when I stopped suddenly, I heard an extra step. I've experienced such footsteps before. It was making me feel uncomfortable. But now, although her footsteps sounded the same as the others ones I'd experienced, I saw her when I turned around. That was the difference between them. I left the storage door open so we could see the soy sauce barrel. The memo said she can take as much as she wants, but I wasn't sure there was enough left. I crouched down and tried to open the lid of the soy sauce barrel. Even when I crouched down, I could hear Rika's extra step.
まだまだいっぱいあるよ。ほら、好きなだけ持ってくといい。
Jeez, look at her face, so different this time. When I turned around, Rika was very close to me. But who was this? I saw Rika, but it wasn't Rika at all. It was like when I switched with my sister. Yeah, look at her face though. It's different, right? It's like a much more older Rika, and then the body is still the same. The outside was the same, but the inside was different. Did Rika have a twin sister? I was confused for a moment. That was Rika, or that was when Rika sprayed something from a small bottle into my eyes. I felt a terrible pain in my eyes and suddenly tears poured out and my nose started to run. So I couldn't stop sneezing either. As I stumbled around covering my face, I didn't realize I was attacked. I shut my eyes tightly for a moment and then opened them again. Rika was about to grab my hair to drag me down onto the floor. When Rika saw me, opened my eyes, she sprayed at it again. I shut my eyes to avoid the spray, but my nose still breathed in the substance. I avoided the pain in my eyes, but the tears, the runny nose, and the sneezing continued. My brain isn't working quickly enough. However, when I finally understood that I had been attacked by Rika Furude, my brain started to grind into motion. Rika Furude knocked me on my back and got on top of me. I tried to escape from her by rolling on the kitchen floor. As I rolled, I hit an oven, a huge jar, and destroyed a pile of something on the floor as I fought back. But Rika didn't let me go. She stayed on top, and she restrained me. She was sitting on my stomach and I felt intense pain and pressure. She sure could fight well. I still couldn't see anything. So Rika had the upper hand, my eyes were shut, and I was in real danger. As I tried to blink, I saw Rika's expression. I didn't know Rika Furude all that well. I only knew her from the times or the few times we met when I went to school as Mion and from the things I've heard from other people. But as far as I know, there is no way Rika Furude would ever do something like this. This is just impossible. Impossible. No, I can't fill my head with that word. I have to calm down and figure out what to do next. I'm too much of a mess to even think. Why is she not speaking though? Yeah, Rika's not speaking. I tried to peek at her face again. She still had the spray bottle in one hand. What I didn't expect was the thing in her other hand. How could I mistake it for anything else? It was definitely a syringe. So, the syringe, they found it as well, right? In chapter 2 in the ending, Uishi said. When Rika realized I regained my eyesight, she pointed the spray bottle right at me and then let loose with it. So I shut my eyes tightly and tried to ignore the pain. But that was when even though I was blinded, Rika made a miscalculation. She sprayed me from such a close distance that she inhaled the substance as well. I heard Rika sneeze and realized that it was my chance. Even I couldn't see. I knew she was right there. So I hit Rika's face a few times. Did I want to see this, man, in anime form? Them fighting like this, right? When I felt Rika's weight shift, I escaped. Oh! They're fighting, look. This is the spray, right? Then Shion got her stun gun. Rika must have inhaled just a little of the spray. She wasn't sneezing anymore. And was glaring at me instead. Rika's expression didn't change, but I was sure she was disappointed that her surprise attack was a failure. Rika flinched just a little, but she was still holding the spray bottle, aiming it at my eyes. She was trying to use the spray first, and then give me the shot. I didn't know what was in the syringe, but it was clear liquid. I actually don't remember though if the syringe had something in it, right? In the ending of of the second chapter, or was it empty? But yeah, Oishi did mention that. It had to be something bad. She wanted to take my eyesight, get on top of me, and then give me the shot. If whatever was in the syringe took a while to take effect, I might have the chance to fight back and seriously injure Rika. But Rika's surprise attack told me that just being injected was more than enough. In other words, whatever the effect, it would start to work immediately. Therefore, I wouldn't able to fight back against her. So it'd be probably either knock me out or kill me. In any case, what I had was equally deadly. My stun gun was very, very powerful. Just one shot would all it took, or would be all it took. What happened before was proof of its power. Rika knew my stun gun was a lot more powerful than her spray, so she was being extremely cautious.
ほらほら、いつまで人ん家に上がり込んでボサッとしてくれてるわけさ。そっちから来ないんならこっちから行くぞ、こら。
I threw a pile of newspapers at her. The piles wasn't together, so the newspapers flew all over Rika. I jumped at her immediately after. I shoved my stun gun into her, and then clicked and pulled the trigger. Rika spasmed and fell to the floor. You fool! Hesitating in a fight where a single blow wins. Only amateurs just glare at each other. You don't even have a single clue about how advantageous a first strike is when you single blow can decide everything. The spray bottle rolled on the ground, but she still had the syringe. Rika was down, but I couldn't let my guard down either. So I kicked her in the side and clambered on top of her. I took the syringe. I held Rika's arm down and gave her a shot. My actions could hardly be gentle. I injected her violently. I injected everything that was in the syringe. Rika began to convulse, so I stood back and watched for what would happen to her body. Of course, I still had my guard up. While I assumed that the drug would incapacitate her immediately, I didn't know exactly what kind of reaction she would have.
ざまあないね。私に勝てるとか夢にでも思った。なめんじゃねえや。
After a few more convulsions, Rika unsteadily got to her feet. That's ridiculous. How can she even stand? I looked at my stun gun. So damn it. The power was on the lowest setting. Okay, that's why. Maybe it had been readjusted when we were rolling around on the floor. I changed the setting to maximum. So Rika turned pale and started sweating all over. I didn't know its exact effects, but if Rika had given me the shot, I'd be the one experiencing her symptoms. She looked really sick, so obviously she must have been feeling awful too. She couldn't even focus. She was very wobbly and had her hand on the wall. She lost her balance and it must have been hard for her to even stand. She didn't even look so brave anymore. Rika wobbled some more and moaned as if she was about to throw up. Hanyu? What's a Hanyu? Rika looked scary as she moaned and wobbled, but at the same time she looked kind of funny too. Certainly she hadn't even dreamed she'd be getting the shot herself. As the man sows, so shall he reap. That's what you get.
実に滑稽だね。笑えるよ。でも吐くときは勘弁ね。お手洗いで吐いてちょうだいよ。 あんたがあとどのくらいでくたばるのか見物するのも楽しいよ。ああ、でもそれじゃあ拷問する楽しみがなくなるね。私さ、あんたにはあの釘台を使ってやろうとずっと心に決めてたんだよね。あんたが自分の薬でゲロを吐きながらそれで窒息して死ぬのが早いか、両手十指に釘をたらふく食らって痛みで行くのが早いか、ぜひ見てみたいもんだね。よし決めた。そうしようかね。じゃあ会場を移そうか。楽しい楽しい地下細宮殿にね。場所を移すためにちょいと眠っててもらうよ。
I walked up to Rika with my stun gun making a popping sounds. When Rika saw the sparks from the stun gun, she moved to grab a huge kitchen knife.
おや、まだその程度の元気はあるわけだ。そうでなくちゃ面白くないよ。あんたにはいろいろ聞きたいことがあるしね。無駄に抵抗しない方がいろいろと辛くないよ。もっとも抵抗しなくても辛い目に遭うだろうけど。
残念だけど、あんたの誘いは断るわ。この拷問狂が。
Look. What is this? Okay. Her voice is different. What did she say earlier? This one? Ahu. Hanyu. What is a Hanyu? Rika-san says some stuff like Nipa. She was meowing even earlier, right? But what is the Hanyu? Is she getting possessed here? And she's saying Hanyu? Is this Hanyu? What she said? Because yeah, her voice is different. What the hell is this? Like, I mean, we already saw this in chapter 4. What I'm saying is, yeah. What? Do we got a name? Is this Hanyu? What she said wasn't anything I'd expect to hear from the Rika I knew. But I didn't hesitate. I had the advantage, so I didn't need to worry. Besides, this was coming from the last survivor of the Furude family, one of the 3 families. That sudden change somehow felt unnatural.
あんたらの御三家の血塗られた歴史に比べたら、私なんてとてもとても。それを古出家当主様に褒めてもらえるなんてね。ちょっと光栄だね。んで、そのフラフラな体で包丁一本で抵抗してみせる。立っているだけでも限界なくせに。
そうね。あんたの言う通り、これがどうも私の限界。お前なんかに召し取られて拷問で殺されるくらいなら。
退場できるならしてごらんよ。
Okay, sorry about that. I clicked it again. It was clear who held the advantage here. But despite that, an odd thrill filled both of us. We lost our minds, so it wasn't a fitting phrase for the people of Hinamizawa. I was feeling, it was a feeling of release and modern demons could stop pretending to be human. Yes, this was a mad banquet of demons with the savoring of blood and devouring flesh. Attended by the head of the Furude family and the head of the Sonozaki family, the old families whose blood is closest to the madness of the demons. I stood in front of the hallway so as to block her escape route. The windows had grates on the door, and the door had a safety chain on it. If she turned around, I'd hit her with my stun gun. In this situation, what did Rika Furude mean by taking her leave? Rika got her knife ready, so I expected her to aim at my stomach when she attacked, so I took a stance with my stun gun ready in my hand. Rika, however, suddenly turned around. I carefully watched to see what her next move would be. Rika put the handle of the knife to the wall and held it in place. What was she doing?
じゃあね。さよなら拷問狂。お前なんかに殺されてたまるか。
Why, is she gonna kill herself? Rika reared her head back and slammed her throat against the knife on the wall. Her blood splattered all over. Rika bent backwards and repeatedly let the knife slash at her throat. Oh my god. Again and again. Her neck and chest were dyed red. I'd always thought blood was thicker, or darker I mean, but her blood wasn't dark, it was bright. I must have been confused, but it looked pretty. After doing this several times, then Rika turned around. Her eyes wide open. She didn't look like she was from this world. Her face looked like something both living and dead, both real and artificial. It was scary, or very scary, eerie, and above all else, pale. Although her face looked unearthly, it was very appropriate to a face for a demon. I didn't have a mirror, so I couldn't tell, but I was sure I looked exactly like her. Rika continued to violently slash her throat. It reminded me of someone trying to break a huge piece of ice with an ice pick. That was exactly what Rika looked like. The white chips of ice coolly flying through the air. What I saw before me was a beautiful sight. Every time Rika struck her throat, tiny drops of red blood splattered the boring white world around her. It was like a dance. A dedication dance by the final head of the Furude family. The demon's last dance of dedication to Oyashiro-sama. Upon seeing that literally blood-curdling dance, I let out a fierce roar. I had no reason to do so. I was howling like an animal. We were like animals trying to kill each other, both getting covered in blood. And inevitably, as one convulsed in the pool of that blood, the other threw back its head and howled. So my body shivered with the joy I felt inside of me. This was death, the most final of judgment, and it was right before me. The demons howled, screamed, and then roared. The roars faded and my voice started to change from the voice of a demon back to that of a human. As a demon I roared, but as a human I sneered. Rika was covered in blood from her neck down. Her blood was pouring out, making a little noise. Rika was still staring into my eyes, so I stared back at her. I wasn't sure they were still eyes though. They were no longer human eyes, but the eyes of the dead. Rika's corpse vomited blood from her mouth. Ugh, and nose and smiled. And then she dropped the knife. She stuck her hands out and turned her palms upward. Her wiggling fingers reminded me of an insect's legs. Those fingers reached for her own throat. I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never seen anybody do this before. Because Rika was scratching her own throat, she was ripping her own throat apart. Maybe that wasn't a good description. She was trying to rip out the inside of her throat through the opening she'd made with a knife. Ugh. Her fingers found the biggest tear. Then Rika smiled. At least that's what I would call it if she were alive. She ripped open the tear in one tug. Upon hearing my scream, Rika died and fell on her face into the pool of blood. That was it. She didn't get up again to show me her throat. I stepped back from Rika Furude's body and bumped into the wall into the hallway. I roared again in admiration of the ritual dance of dedication of the head of the Furude family. My god, what is happening? Why is it so super crazy and so violent? But yeah, thank god they don't really show the scenes here. Because yeah, we're gonna get banned I suppose if it's very very violent, right? Joy ran through my body and my blood rushed through my veins. But I actually want to see this one. Maybe in the anime when I watch it it will show, right? I didn't realize I disposed of the heads of the three families, the core of the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Everything was finally exposed. The curse of Oyashiro-sama and its masterminds were all exposed. I disposed of the leaders of the 3 families who all killed Satoshi-kun. The head of the Sonozaki family died of a heart attack. She was at the bottom of the well along with a wheelchair. I apprehended the head of the Kimiyoshi family. He'd continued to tiptoe until he died. The head of the Furude family died. In a way that was perfect for the final head of the 3 families of Onigafuchi. I did it. I accomplished my mission. I defeated all the masterminds. Who killed Satoshi-kun with the curse? Everyone? Satoshi were powerless. He didn't have the means to fight back. Those evil people simply sneered while they would let you die. After marking you as a member of the cursed Hojo family, I will never ever forgive them. They believe you deserve to die because you were one of the Hojos. As long as it was done by the curse of Oyashiro-sama, they didn't care how you were killed. I will never forgive those people for creating this world. What could I have done to save you, Satoshi-kun? I couldn't save you. Shion Sonozaki couldn't do anything else at the time. If I was Mion, not Shion, if I was Mion that day, I could have saved you. Mion could have saved you. That's right, I remember now. Shion. She said she wanted to eat red snapper sashimi that day. So I was supposed to eat that. But Shion pouted and cried. That's why I let her switch just for that night. Oh, okay, we're here. We're seeing this. I did it to make her happy, like a big sister would. So this is the continuation of what Shion was saying last time, right? Shion was never treated well, so I felt bad. That was it. I was being a good sister. That was it. When morning came, the world had been turned upside down and it had remained so until today. We weren't twins anymore. The one with the demon was Mion and the one without the demon was Shion. What was that supposed to mean? Wait, Mom, listen. I'm Mion, not her. You can tell us apart, right, Mom? Look, can you tell I'm Mion? Come on, everyone, tell me I'm Mion. I'm Mion. Don't call me Shion. I'm Mion. I am.
その時、私ははっきり悟ったよ。あんたは知っていたんだ。あの夜、親類たちが集まって何をするのか、ただの宴会じゃないって知っていたんだ。知らない。
Okay.
本当に知らなかったの。
So I guess that is a ceremony when they put the demon on back of Mion, right? Yes.
はあ？なわけないでしょ。あんた、あの日だけ嫌にしつこく絡んできたじゃない。タイの刺身なんて食べたことない。食べてみたい。いつもミオンばかりずるい。私にもって。普段ならおとなしく納得するくせに、あの日だけ必要に。知らないの。本当に知らなかったの。あんな恐ろしいことになるなんて思ってたら絶対に言わなかった。はっ、どうだか。あんたはいつも妬んでたじゃない。ミオンばかりいい目にあってずるいって。だから私が気を利かせてたまに入れ替わってあげてたんじゃない。あんたはそれに満足していなかった。より一層妬んでいったんだ。そしてあの夜の意味を自分だけ知り、私から奪ったんだ。ミオンを奪ったんだ。ミオンを返せ。私がミオンなんだ。私が園崎ミオン。お前はシオンなんだよ、シオン。ミオンを語るな、偽物が。
I kicked the bars of the cell repeatedly while I roared. Compared to my roar, the metallic noise of the bar sounded like the cry of a little puppy. I had been convinced by something so stupid. The tattoo of a demon was just a way of telling us apart. Even without the tattoo, I am Mion. That's right, I am Mion Sonozaki. I gathered my hair and put it in a ponytail with the yellow band that Mion used all the time. since I didn't feel my hair on my back, I felt like I could think more clearly now. Two Mions looked at each other through the iron bars. According to our sibling rules, that was never to happen. Yet, there was only one Mion and one Shion. There could never be two of either at the same time.
髪をほどけシオン。ミオンは私だ。ミオンはここにいる。お前がミオンじゃない。だから語るな、二度と私を語るな。聞いているのかシオン。聞こえているのか。聞こえているなら返事をしろ。私に返事を届かせろシオン。
I took myself back on this day. Shion admitted she was Shion.
ミオンであることがこんなにも素晴らしいなんて。すごいよ。体全体が言うことを聞く。頭の回転が優れた気がする。そうだよ。ミオンは万能なんだ。みそかすのシオンとは違う。落ちこぼれのくせに下手なミオンのふりなんかしやがって。それが私にとってどれだけむずがゆかったことかわかるでしょ、あんたになら。シオン。はい。おね。
Okay, what? Shion called me sis. And so I was Mion. The demon who had been asleep deep inside of me was finally allowed to wake up. The demon roared and my whole body shivered to express its joy.
シオン、あんたには罪がある。あんたは今までミオンだった。園崎家の鬼を継ぐミオンという強い立場がありながら、サトシ君を救わなかった、救おうとしなかった。サトシ君を救うための100億の瞬間があったはずなのに、あんたはその全てを見殺しにすることを選んだんだ。私は許さない、お前を許さない。お前が私だったらサトシ君を救えていたのに。お前が私を奪いサトシ君を殺したことを私は絶対に許さない。
Shion was shaking on the other side of the bars.
私はお前を殺すだろう。絶対に殺す。サトシ君の無念に見合う殺し方をしてやる。お前を一番残酷に殺す方法が何なのか、今日から毎日考えて過ごしてやる。シオンは私がそれを思いつくまでのわずかな日々を、いつ殺されるのか、どう殺されるのかに怯えながら過ごすがいい。簡単には殺さない。むごたらしく殺す。殺した後はサトシ君と同じ井戸に放り投げて、そしてサトシ君にあの世で謝ってこい。それが私を語り続けてきたことへの報いだ。報い、報い。お前の罪。
Is it over? Oh my god, that was intense. Jesus. I needed to at least clean up the kitchen. While I was putting old newspapers on the floor to absorb the blood, the phone rang. I didn't want to answer, but maybe I should. I should answer it and talk to whoever it was.
はい、園崎です。
Just like nothing happened. Hello, this is the Sonozaki residence, by the way.
いつもお世話になってるでございます。北条と申しますですわ。
Oh no, yes, Satoko was also gonna go there. I was surprised to hear the Hojo name, but I realized right away that it was Satoko.
あ、サトコ？どうしたの？
夜分遅くに申し訳ありませんわね。うちのリカがお邪魔してませんこと？
Ah, yes. Ever since Satoko Hojo was abandoned, she had been living with Rika Furude. Of course, she'd get suspicious that Rika hadn't returned yet.
あ、来てるよ。
あら、まだお邪魔してますの？もう夕飯の時間ですのに。
ねえサトコ、実はね、今日さ、ちょいとおかずを作りすぎちゃってね。リカちゃんにも夕食を振る舞ってるんだよ。
そうなんでございますの？
サトコも来なよ。 さとこの分もあるからさ。リカちゃんはもう食べてるよ。
もうリカったら。わかりましたわ。ちょっと片付けをしてから参りますわね。では、ごめんあそばせ。
うん。待ってるからね。じゃ。
Click. Damn. Intensity. Okay, let's take a break here. Yes, let's take a break. That was a very, very long part already. So, yeah. Damn. Damn, though, right? So, for Rika, I think we saw, or maybe not saw, but yeah, she changed again, right? You saw how different the voice is, right? When she was coughing, and then she said Hanyu, and then later on she talked again, but it was a different voice, right? So I think this Hanyu is maybe possessing her, just like in chapter 4, right? When she was talking to Akasaka. Like, we know Rika's voice, and then you see this older voice comes in, right? The face kind of looks serious, but yeah, the voice is very, very different. Much, much more older, right? So I think this Hanyu is the one possessing her, something like that. I did say that the only supernatural I believe in is with Rika-chan. Everything else is human, only her. So maybe that's why she said Hanyu there, Hanyu. She was calling that Hanyu, and then it went inside her, and then it talked, right? But yeah, also this one for Mion here, or for Shion, I mean. So yeah, I wanted this in the beginning. I said it that I wanted this to be expanded more, and then we got it today. She expanded how it happened. So there was a nice, I guess, gathering, and then nice food. So she said Mion, the Mion we know now, wanted to try that food, but that celebration turned out to be, I guess, the marking, putting the mark of a demon, I suppose, right, into Mion, onto the successor, right? She said she didn't know. I mean, you couldn't really tell if the Mion we know now knew or not, right? We don't know unless we actually see it, right? The actual scene, it's very hard to tell. But yeah, at that time, it finally changed. They finally changed permanently. No more swapping, I guess, from time to time. They could tell now who is gonna be Mion, who is gonna be Shion. The one with the mark became Mion. She was originally Shion. She was originally the one treated badly, and then when the mark came, she became Mion, right? That's why you see that talk with Shion was screaming at her right? Give me, I want to be Mion, give my name back, something like that. That was pretty cool though. Yes, I love that. So they explained it to us in much more detail, right? So next episode, I guess it's Satoko's turn, right? She's gonna come here, and it's gonna be sad. We'll see what Shion is gonna do to her. So yes, we're gonna continue this and do more of Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 5, Meakashi, in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye-bye.